Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, it's May 1st of 2022. Tomorrow morning early, I have to go have blood drawn for, lab work, and then a few days later, a week later or something, then I'm going to see the doctor. What else? My UMIDIGI, whoops, and that came on quick. Oh, it must have used facial recognition. I think maybe that's the first time it's used it. I guess this hat's covering a little too much of my head. Trying to cover up my ugly head, but maybe it. Anyway, I like the display. I like the feel of this thing. See what? Oh, okay. I purchased a. Well, of course, I had a 128 gigabyte micro SD card here that I wasn't using. I put it in, and this couldn't format it or couldn't do something, or I forget what the exact message is. So I ordered a new one, and it came in today, and I can't format it. Can't. Maybe I do format it. Can't remember now. But it just doesn't recognize that it's there. I'm not sure what in the heck is going on with that. I like the volume of this thing. The ringtones and all that. When the phone rings, it's nice and loud. Of course, it's adjustable. As you know, I have some hearing problem, and I hate even talking on, you know, the telephone, and especially if somebody, has an accent. I mean, if there's noise, like if you call, there's a place that we call for, well, I don't, that we call for, Mexican food occasionally, or Chinese food, I'm sorry. Chinese food to have it brought over, and they have background noise. And I've told the ex-wife and my grown son, I said, I would not call them. Of course, we like their food. I said, I would not call them because they don't, take care of their background noise. Because I wouldn't be able to communicate. I wouldn't be able to understand them. Wouldn't be able to understand them. The other day, I was on the telephone with 911 dispatcher, and then I was switched over to EMS, and the 911 dispatcher stayed in the background. I didn't know that till towards the end. And of course, they were asking, name, address, all that kind of information. And I had a difficult time. I had to ask them to repeat repeatedly because it wasn't because of noise now in the background or anything. It was just, now, like I make so many phone calls, I can't tell if that was an aberration or if that's going to be a problem. The display looks good. I'm happy with the display. I love the size of this. I did a search to see if there's any mention of anybody having a problem with their micro SD card not working. But I'll keep working on that. So far, I have two phones. The Pixel A1 or whatever that is. Is it A1? Now I like the display on this, not the size, but you know, the brilliance and everything. See if I can put these two. If I could get my fingers out of the way, maybe that would be a little. No, I don't think this is going to work. But anyway, I got them lined up here. You know, this is just so much bigger, and it's also waterproof. And I think that's the first waterproof cell phone that I've had. And I do like to take pictures outside when it's raining or something like that. And one of the problems with the SD card, you know, not working is, I think when the 911 incident came up, I wanted to record what was going on in the background. And this is the cell phone then that I had, you know, in my hand. And it wouldn't record because there was no SD card, I believe, in it, if I remember right. You got to remember, I haven't spent much time messing with this, so. But anyway, I am happy with it, but I am not sure about this SD card problem. See, what else? Oh, the last few videos, nobody's mentioned anything about it, but remember a fan of this site, he made that introduction video for me. And I like it, but there is a problem sometimes when I include that in the video, and then when I upload it, I think it's when I directly upload it, when I record it and then tell it to go ahead and you know, upload it, sometimes I get an error. So I think what I'm going to do is take the lazy way, and I have to remember to do that, is like when I started this recording here, I should have, well, let me do that now, at least it'll be here, and maybe, let's see, stand by.
Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Thank you very much for watching.
I think he made that the, and I didn't tell him, you know, the right length, and he threw everything in there that I thought should be in there, and I didn't tell him about that either. So I guess that's what I'm going to do is, what I do want to do, I haven't made one in a while, is you know, do live streaming. What I'm not going to do, because it just doesn't work. It doesn't work well for me. Maybe it works well for other people, and that's try to carry on a conversation with the people that are in, you know, if they want to talk to each other. Now, I mean, occasionally, if somebody will ask a question or something, occasionally, if I thought that it should be answered, I'll answer it. But what happens with me is well, one, I don't get a lot of live streaming, watchers and people in the, and that may have something to do with it. But the other thing is, somebody will ask me a question, I'll I'll start answering that. Somebody else pops in, ask a question totally different than the other question, and it's no, so I don't think I'm going to, when I do start doing that, and if I do start doing it, I'm not going to do like I've done in the past, because it just doesn't work out. Uh, I don't think that's the kind of format. If somebody is, uh, I've been watching a firefighter and paramedic. He has a really good YouTube site. I put the link to it someplace. It might have been in a message underneath. I think it was at the top of the thing. Now, he does well because somebody asked a specific question. How's the best way to become a firefighter? Blah blah blah, and then he answers those questions, and they're important questions, and that's the maybe the issue of the video, but so. So I've got my Windows 11 computer going here. Over here I just hooked up the Chrome box video, or the Chrome box HP computer. Remember those speakers that I purchased? I haven't spent a lot of time there again, but right now, as of right now, what's happened, and I have a sound little box, maybe two, in my closet, and each one is slightly different in characteristics and that type of stuff. And they do that sort of, but this is, and what I'm talking about is, with these speakers, let's go to speakers. Yeah, here they are. There's two on the list here because my son ordered them, and he said he liked it, and I like the look and the fact that you can plug it into you plug it into USB for power. And like the speakers I'm using here, which I have been using for a long time. Well, it's right. I don't know if you can see it or not. The power brick for it's this big, and with the extension things I have, it blocks out other plug spaces, and it's just. Now the problem with these, and I don't think it's me, but I haven't messed with the. There's a switch on the top, which as soon as I felt the switch, I thought, this switch is not going to last, not going to last long. But what it does is, and I don't really need the, the flashing lights at all. But what it does is, if say I'm watching a YouTube video or even a movie or something, if the audio level drops, it drops out, and then it waits for it's waiting for like a microsecond or something, rather, waiting, and then it kicks on. Well, I'm not sure how, it's a very small amount that you lose. Very small. But it's still annoying. And so I don't think they listed that as a benefit. Okay, here's the switch on top, and that switch really, let's see, it does RGB, on and off, red, okay, maybe the on and off, no, I think the on and off would be on or off. I don't think there's any way to keep it from doing that. Let's see if they say anything about one knob volume control, knob to left side to turn on, off, volume up and down from left to right. Let's see. Yeah, I just think if they put that in as a plus factor, okay, I'm not going to read all this, but if they put it in as a plus factor, it's not a plus, it's a negative for me. Okay. I've dug out a whole bunch of family pictures going back to, like 4-month-old picture of my mother, in a stroller, all kinds of stuff like that. I want to preserve them, and and also like have them pop up. But I want to have them pop up at the. I've made some of my old videos on here. You may see where I just went through something and showed these out of But what I'd like to do is pull up the thing if there's an appropriate reason to pull it up for some reason. Anyway. I'm pretty stressed out about what's going on, and I don't want to talk too much because it's not fair to the family to be talking about what's going on in their life, but it's also going on in my life. I would like to make a video. I've probably mentioned some things, not personal things, but things that maybe working hospital security for 30 years that I saw, and other, then of course contacts that I've had or have had to had. So I would like to, in order to to help some people as best I can. I can't even help myself, so I'm not sure I can help anybody else, but I do want to do something on that. Well, let me mention something that has nothing to do with family. I was working at a major hospital security, and we switched every 2 hours from post. So I was doing my 2 hours in the emergency room, and a fairly young black male came in for like 3 a.m. in the morning. There was no patients in the waiting room. I don't think there was any patients in the back, so far as the emergency room is concerned. And so he came in, and he was bleeding a little bit from each ear, and I directed him over, to where he could sit down and tell the. It's been quite a while, so I can't remember if he talked to or tried to the ER clerk, or if the nurse, the RN, if she asked him for a question or something rather. And now keep in mind he was bleeding a little bit from each ear. I could see that. And he was not talking, not talking well, sort of gibberish. Now I've had people do that. I remember a couple guys came in and they weren't talking gibberish, but I had them go over there and, the ER clerk said, what's the name? And I forget what, like Mickey Mouse, and this is Donald Duck or something, something like that. And she asked again, please, I need it for the thing. They came up with something else. So I just went over and I said, hey, you clowns, or something like that. Give the lady the information or get the hell out of here. And there's more to the story, but they left. They made a point of driving around the parking thing and came back. Like an idiot, I stood in front of them and snapped my gun. But they came around and headed towards me, and then they went around me. It wasn't smart of me to stand in front of them. But I did it. And they left. Anyway, this guy came in bleeding from the ear, and he's talking gibberish. And the nurse said, I'm not putting up with, I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly what she said, you start talking, she just said, I think she basically just said, okay, get out of here. And then I said to the nurse, I said, he's bleeding from both ears. And she said, she was, like she's an RN, and I didn't have that trouble except at that big hospital and at that emergency room. They had an attitude. I worked at other hospitals in that 30 years, and I just had trouble with most of the ER nurses there in that, they were like having one of the nurses would time out. I'm not sure if it was just for the, why should they go to the floor where the time clocks were to time, out? And they would have somebody go and do it. And I said, no, you need to time out. Each one of you needs to time out. I don't even think that I reported them. I think that somebody else eventually, reported them. But they just had an attitude like that. But anyway, she says, I'm not putting up with, I can't remember. It's been years, I stopped working hospital security in 2000. So I can't remember all the details, but she said, out of here to him, just leave, you go or whatever. And then another RN came out, so I watched him, he headed down the street. I watched him going. And, the other RN comes out, and this nurse who had just run this patient off said, well, that guy, a guy came in and he was just talking gibberish, and I just told him, and then the other nurse said, oh, I know that he comes in here as a patient from time to time, but he's never talked gibberish or anything, like that. And I think the nurse actually said, well, he was bleeding, the one who kicked him out, said, well, he's bleeding a little bit from his ears. And then and then so the nurse comes over to me, and anyway, I watched the guy go down the street, and a few blocks, or not a few blocks, like a block or less, and still in front of the hospital, there was a tavern. This is a black neighborhood, by the way, and at that time, for some reason, the first hospital I worked at was the worst, neighborhood in, and then I worked at another hospital, and then I think this was the next hospital. By the time I got there, the crime had moved, except in the beginning, they had, like 38 revolvers. We were like, equals. By the time they got to this new neighborhood, they had assault rifles laying on the seat of their vehicles, or shotguns, or stuff like that. But so anyway, the other nurse said, "Oh, he's been in here before, and he doesn't talk gibberish, and whatever." And then so anyway, the nurse said, "Do you know where he went?" And I said, "Yes, he went down the street and he went into the tavern." And she says, "Well, you go down there and bring him back up here." And I said, "No, that's not happening. I'm not going down there and going into that tavern and attempting to bring him out. I'd have been the only white person in that place, and I wouldn't have been in there very long. I mean, I worked there, and I saw when they would close up at night. I think the law was 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that for a tavern. On at least a couple occasions, I remember one. A guy came. They were closing. A guy comes out. He opens up his trunk, takes a shotgun, and he's shooting it off in the air. And I just happened to be. We almost never went into it. There was a shack there on our property, of course, right across from it. And we didn't go in there. We had patrol cars or whatever. I just happened to go in just to make sure that everything was okay and nobody was sleeping in there or taking a dump on the floor. Or, I just happened to go in there, like 2 a.m. in the morning. And I saw this guy shooting the gun, and I called. There was also a phone there. So, and this is before cell phones, And so I called, and this before 911 callers, or before 911 service also. Things improved tremendously after 911 service was, because the dispatchers were trained better and all that type of stuff. I called and explained the situation. I think by then the gunshots had stopped, And the dispatcher says, have you arrested the party? I said, no, it's across the street, such and such, Well, and I forget what she said, and it was like, no, we're not going to send the police. I said, okay, but anyway, that's life. Okay, I'm exhausted, by the way. I got 1 hour sleep last night. I had to stay awake all night long. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Oh, here it is.